In the last episode, we took apart the legendary Assassin's Creed 2. We got to know Ezio and his family, and we had an introduction to the Italian Brotherhood and its enemies, the Templars. Now we're going to look at one of my favourite games in the entire franchise, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. I'd forgotten about most of this game, but my recent playthrough absolutely blew me away. So again, grab yourself a cup of tea, get comfortable, because I'm about to lick this game's balls for a while, because it gets me real bricked up. By the end of Assassin's Creed 2, Ezio believed his journey was almost complete. He'd avenged his family, destroyed the conspiracy that shattered his youth, and redirected the entire course of his life. He accepted his place within the Brotherhood, recovered the Apple of Eden from Rodrigo's greasy little sausage fingers, entered a vault beneath the Vatican, and witnessed a message from a civilization older than humanity itself. For more than 2 decades, revenge had pushed him forward and guided him, and now at last he believed he could return home. But history was not finished with Ezio, and neither was the Templars. Brotherhood doesn't start with a new protagonist, a new century, or a new conflict. It begins with consequences. There are consequences for Ezio's mercy, for the assassins smashing the Templars, and consequences for believing that defeating one bloke could dismantle an entire system. The Borgias still controlled Rome, and the Templars still possessed armies, money, influence, and continued to swing their big political balls all around Italy. The Brotherhood remained scattered, and the Apple of Eden had placed Ezio at the centre of a war much larger than his family. Assassin's Creed 2 was the story of a boy becoming a man who then became an assassin. Brotherhood is the story of that assassin becoming a leader and a mentor. He's not just a killer, he's not just a legend, but he's responsible for lives beyond his own. And this is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, the fall of the Borgia dynasty and the liberation of Rome, the rise of the Italian assassins, and the moment Ezio stopped fighting alone. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was released way back in 2010, just a year after Assassin's Creed 2. And that short development cycle could easily have produced a smaller and safer sequel, a glorified expansion, a collection of recycled systems and familiar ideas. Instead, Ubisoft used Brotherhood to refine the formula even further. The sequel kept Ezio, it kept the same historical period, it kept the same engine and many of the same mechanics, but it changed the scale of the story. Assassin's Creed 2 moved across several cities and spanned decades. Brotherhood concentrates its attention on one great urban landscape, Rome, a city under occupation. A city divided between ancient grandeur and contemporary decay. A liberation that becomes the central gameplay loop. This tighter focus allowed Ubisoft to deepen ideas that Assassin's Creed 2 had introduced. The villa's economy became city restoration, faction allies became a growing assassin network, optional contracts became a recruit management system, and combat becomes faster and more aggressive. The protagonist is no longer simply learning from others, he's now teaching them. Brotherhood isn't interested in repeating an origin story, it wants to test what our boy has become. Brotherhood starts way back at the villa, the home the players spent the last game rebuilding. This choice is immediately meaningful. The town represents everything that Ezio has achieved. His surviving family has found some stability in life again. The Auditore name has been restored, and the villa has become a headquarters for the assassins. Weapons, paintings, and trophies fill its rooms. It's not just another location, it's the physical embodiment of our progress, and hours of grinding. And because players personally invested in its restoration, the sense of safety feels earned. The opening sequence allows Ezio a brief glimpse of peace. He speaks with his sister Claudia. He reunites with Caterina. He receives praise from his allies. He enjoys his part in the ordinary life of the town. Even mechanically, the game offers domestic tasks, helping civilians, inspecting defences, testing cannons, moving through the familiar streets. These moments deliberately lower the player's guard. The story gives Ezio a home. And then a little cockweasel, Cesare Borgia, takes it all away. The siege is Brotherhood's inciting disaster. It serves the same structural function as the execution of the Auditore family in Assassin's Creed 2. It destroys the protagonist's sense of stability. This time, Ezio is not a helpless teenager watching a tragedy unfold. He's a master assassin, and he's defending everything that he's built. Players take control of the villa's defences. Ezio fires cannons at siege towers. He moves across the collapsing walls. He rescues civilians, fights Borgia soldiers, and gives them a good old quality slapping. The sequence feels more openly cinematic than almost anything in the previous game. This is not an assassination, it's a full-blown war, and importantly, it's a war that the assassins will lose. Cesare arrives as the complete opposite of Rodrigo. Rodrigo was patient, political, calculating. Cesare is a violent dick. He's entitled, impulsive, and unbearably arrogant. He doesn't manipulate from a distant room, he rides through the gates with an army. Mario, being the ultimate beast that he is, confronts him, and Cesare kills him. Ezio watches his uncle die. The man who trained him, protected his family, and introduced him to the Brotherhood. The Apple of Eden is taken, Caterina is captured, and the town and the villa is devastated. Ezio escapes with the survivors, but the victory of Assassin's Creed 2 has been completely erased in a single shitty morning. This is the lesson Brotherhood establishes immediately. Systems survive. Rodrigo was defeated, but the Borgia machine remained. Armies, money, influence, and fear. Ezio spared one man at the Vatican, and the structure around that man continued moving. Brotherhood is not simply a continuation of revenge, it's a correction. Ezio now understands that killing the head of the system does not automatically destroy the body. Cesare Borgia is one of the franchise's most theatrical antagonists. That were a mouthful. Where Rodrigo saw himself as a chosen prophet, Cesare sees himself as pure power. He's young, charismatic, cruel and ambitious. He's completely convinced that the entire world belongs to him. Historically, Cesare was a military commander, politician and son of the Pope. Brotherhood exaggerates his villainy, but it captures the qualities that made him an historically fascinating douche canoe. His ambition without restraint, adaptability without conscience, confidence without any humility. He believes destiny has already chosen him. He doesn't need to earn any authority. He believes authority is his by right, and that arrogance makes him dangerous. But it also makes him vulnerable. Rodrigo understood patience. Cesare understands nothing but conquest. Rodrigo built systems, and Cesare consumes what Rodrigo built. He treats Rome as a personal kingdom. The church is his property, and the military is an extension of his massive ego. The Apple of Eden is another object that rightfully belongs to him. He's not a philosopher like Big Papa Al-Malim was. He's pure appetite, power-hungry, and constantly starving for more power. The destruction at Villa performs a familiar mechanical function. Ezio loses much of the equipment and the wealth that he built up in Assassin's Creed 2. And this is a classic sequel problem. How do the developers justify taking power away from an experienced protagonist? Brotherhood answers this with a catastrophe. Ezio is injured. He got royally shit-mixed. His armours have been destroyed. His weapons have been lost. The villa's wealth has disappeared and the apple has been stolen. The reset isn't subtle, but it's narratively very effective. And more importantly, Ezio's not reset. He remains an experienced little beast. He knows the creed, he knows how to fight, and he understands his enemy. The progression system no longer represents a young assassin learning basic competence. It represents a veteran rebuilding himself after a massive defeat. And this gives Brotherhood a very different emotional rhythm. Ezio doesn't need to discover who he is anymore. He needs to prove everything that he's learned. Rome is the true protagonist of Brotherhood. It's not just another setting around what the entire game is built. The city is enormous compared with the individual locations from Assassin's Creed 2. There are ancient monuments that rise above medieval streets. Ruined architecture sits beside crowded markets. The Vatican's wealth contrasts with the many neglected little neighbourhoods. The city feels divided between history and occupation. The Borgia control Rome through visible symbols of dominance. Soldiers patrol the streets. Captains command their own little districts. Towers stand as military and political anchors. Shops are forced to close down. The citizens live in constant fear. Roads and buildings have all been neglected, and this gives Brotherhood a clear, open-world objective. Rome must be liberated, and its people need to be freed. Not through one final assassination, but steadily, slowly and cautiously, district by district, tower by tower, citizen by citizen. The tower system is Brotherhood's new defining world mechanic. Each little occupied district is controlled by a captain and anchored by a tower. Before businesses can reopen in that area, Ezio must remove the local commander. So we first need to identify the captain, study the surrounding areas, choose an approach, and then bust out an assassination. Some captains will fight you, others shit themselves and run away. If a captain does escape, we need to come back and try again a little bit later. But once the captain is dead, Ezio can climb the tower and light it up. The explosion is symbolic and mechanical. Control slowly collapses and the district becomes available for future investments. The shops can reopen, the citizens will return, and the map changes. This system transforms traditional Ubisoft's territory clearing into something thematically meaningful. And it's something that I have really missed. The gang leaders in Syndicate, and to some extent the little castles and shadows, touched on something similar, but nothing's really done it like this since. The player doesn't capture territory for a coloured map. The player dismantles the occupation. Each liberated district visually improves. This system creates a satisfying loop, connecting almost every part of the game. You kill a captain, burn a tower, renovate a business, increase your income, unlock new services, and then recruit civilians. This expands the Brotherhood and strengthens Ezio. The liberation of Rome isn't just background content, it's the structural heart of the game. The renovation system expands the economy across an entire city. Players can purchase and restore blacksmiths, tailors, doctors, banks, stables, art merchants, and landmarks. Every renovation increases the income that we get. The banks store the accumulated money, and again I found myself grinding money to renovate the next building, and I got far too invested in this aspect of the game. Shops provide weapons, armour, medicine, dyes, and equipment upgrades. Landmarks are expensive, but significantly increase revenue. Mechanically, the system rewards exploration and investment. My Ezio was like a Renaissance Monopoly guy, and by the time I'd finished the game, he was absolutely minted. The more Rome is restored, the more money that Ezio can earn, and the more money he earns, the more effectively he can continue with his campaign. But once again, the thematic layer matters. Ezio's not only destroying Borgia influence, he's replacing it, and this is a crucial distinction. Assassination alone just creates emptiness. Leadership requires rebuilding, and the game repeatedly asks, what happens after we spill blood? Who protects that district? Who restores the commerce? Who gives the citizens hope? Who prevents another tyrant from taking that exact same position? And Brotherhood's answer is imperfect, but it is clear. The assassin must become a leader, not just a killer. Machiavelli returns in this game as well, as one of Ezio's closest allies. In Brotherhood, he represented discipline, caution, and political realism. He understands Rome, He understands their enemies. He understands how quickly good intentions can collapse under pressure, just like my dad before he went off for milk and never come home. Machiavelli's relationship with Ezio has some friction though. Machiavelli believes the situation needs careful control. Ezio believes the Brotherhood needs some trust, but Machiavelli thinks in terms of intelligence, networks and risks. Ezio begins thinking in terms of the people. Citizens equal recruits, and that builds communities, and that builds potential. And this tension reflects the game's larger theme. What makes a good leader? Is it experience, authority, strategy, charisma, trust? Machiavelli is intelligent and he is committed, but Ezio is the one that inspires the people. He doesn't simply command, he creates belief. Brotherhood gradually positions Ezio as the natural mentor of the Italian assassins. And this isn't because he demands the title, but it's because others choose to follow him. The recruit system in Brotherhood is an important mechanical innovation. Throughout Rome, citizens resist oppression. Some are cornered by guards, others are threatened in streets. Ezio can intervene. After being rescued, civilians could join the Brotherhood. They're not generated merely as combat abilities. They're people choosing resistance. Once recruited, they're sent across Europe on contracts, and then they gain experience and raise through the ranks. They acquire better equipment, and eventually they can become full-on assassins. Now this system changes the emotional meaning of the open world. In the last game, Ezio was the primary focus. Allies offered him assistance, but the player remained central. Now in Brotherhood, this allows Ezio to create others just like him. They're not copies of his personality, but are people equipped to continue his fight. Mechanically, recruits can also be called into combat. A signal sends one assassin to a marked target, multiple recruits can overwhelm patrols, and a fully charged signal can unleash an arrow storm, eliminating groups of enemies from afar. This is extremely impressive and pretty satisfying, where its deeper significance lies in power distribution. Ezio doesn't need to perform every assassination by himself anymore. Leadership means trusting others with the blade. The recruit management screen adds a strategic layer. Assassins can be sent on missions in cities all across Europe. Each contract has a difficulty rating, and success probability depends on the recruits that are assigned. So sending several recruits increases the chance of victory, but removes them temporarily from Rome. So a failed mission can injure or kill the recruit, and this creates balance and tension. The recruits are extremely useful, but they're not invincible, and the player needs to decide who's ready and who needs some more support. Experience earned through contracts allows recruits to gradually level up. Skill points improve the weapon or armor capabilities, and their clothing and armor also improve as their rank rises. And when a recruit reaches the highest level, Ezio conducts an initiation ceremony. Now this moment echoes his own acceptance into the Brotherhood. There's a leap of faith, an oath, a blade, and a new assassin is born. These ceremonies provide one of the game's strongest rewards, because they transform abstract progression into ritual. The player doesn't simply max out a unit, the Brotherhood gains another loyal member. In the main expression of Ezio's epic character arc, in Assassin's Creed 2, Ezio constantly learned from others. Mario taught him about the Brotherhood, Leonardo improved his toys, Rosa expanded his movements, Antonio taught him to use networks, Machiavelli exposed him to political strategy, but now Ezio's the teacher. And this transition isn't announced through one big dramatic speech. It unfolds naturally, through responsibility. Every recruit is a life placed in his care. Every contract reflects his judgment. Every death represents another failure. Ezio's promotion represents trust that's been earned. Ezio's greatest weapon is no longer his hidden blade. It's his ability to inspire action in the people that are loyal to him. And this is the essence of Brotherhood. The assassins are strongest, not when one chad of a warrior dominates a battlefield, like a certain irritating Greek mercenary. The assassins are strongest when people choose to act together. Claudia's arc and development continue in Brotherhood. After years of managing the family's finances, she's no longer the lost little girl from Florence. In Rome, she takes responsibility for the Rosa, and that's a brothel that's used by the assassins as a headquarters. Ezio is initially uncomfortable about leaving his little sister in this place, but he underestimates her. And this is one of his more human flaws. He spent years becoming a warrior, but he still sees Claudia as his little sister who needs his protection. But Claudia proves otherwise. She manages the information networks, handles dangerous situations, defends herself against attackers, supports the Brotherhood's operations, and eventually she's formally inducted as an assassin herself. Her initiation carries emotional weight because it completes an arc that began with the destruction of their family. Ezio inherited Giovanni's blade, Claudia inherited the family's resilience. Both become assassins, but through very different paths. Her progression also reinforces the game's wider theme. The Order cannot depend on one man. It grows by recognizing strength in others. Caterina's capture gives the early Rome story arc a very personal objective. She isn't just an ally, she's a political figure whose imprisonment strengthens the Borgia authority. Her conflict with Lucrezia Borgia becomes one of the game's most memorable personal rivalries. Both women understand power, but they wield it very differently. Caterina is blunt, I love her. She's defiant and military-minded, and she's an amazing character. Lucrezia operates through family influences, court politics, and emotional manipulation. Caterina's captivity also exposes the Borgia's family's use of humiliation. They don't just defeat their enemies, they display them. They imprison them inside symbols of power, and they turn resistance into a spectacle. Ezio's rescue mission now serves two purposes. It saves an ally and publicly challenges the illusion that the Borgia are untouchable. Lucrezia occupies a complicated position in the game. Historically, she's often been linked to sensational, exaggerated stories of poison, incest, and corruption. Modern historical interpretations tend to be a bit more cautious with her now, recognizing how frequently she was used as a political instrument by all the men that were around her. Brotherhood embraces the darker legend. She's manipulative, cruel, and deeply entangled with Cesare. She benefits from Borgia authority while also being trapped by it. Her relationship with Cesare is presented as emotionally and sexually disturbing. We're not going to get into it because it's not as sexually disturbing as your browser history, but it's still pretty disturbing. The game uses this relationship to emphasize the family's moral decay. The Borgia speak constantly of destiny and entitlement, yet their power has isolated them from ordinary boundaries: law, religion, family, consent, and responsibility. Everything becomes negotiable when they believe themselves to be chosen. She's not the central antagonist of the game, but she helps make the Borgia household feel pretty rotten. The infiltration of, bear with me because I'm going to ruin this, Castel Sant'Angelo is one of Brotherhood's strongest demonstrations of large-scale stealth. The fortress is heavily defended, vertical and layered. Connected to the Vatican through fortified passages, players can approach using the walls, rooftops, courtyards, and interior chambers. The mission captures the fantasy of penetrating the centre of enemy power. Ezio moves closer to the Borgia family than ever before, not with an army, but through movement and observation and patience. This sequence also reveals how far the series' level design has massively evolved over the years. The original Assassin's Creed offered open assassination spaces, but repeated investigation structures. Brotherhood uses the architecture to create a more cinematic, but still flexible infiltration. The location feels authored without completely removing your urgency. The three city factions from the last game, the courtesans, thieves, and mercenaries, are back. But in Brotherhood, they're tied more directly to the liberation of Rome. Each faction receives its own headquarters, and each of them offers varied missions. Each of them represents a different method of resistance. The courtesans gather information and manipulate the attention of their enemies. The thieves control movement, rooftops, and street-level intelligence. The mercenaries provide brute force. Ezio's relationships with these groups illustrates his growth as a leader. He doesn't force every ally into the same role. He understands their strengths and weaknesses and uses them appropriately. A brotherhood is not an army of identical people. It's a network of different skills directed to a shared purpose. The courtesan assignments focus on deception, information, and the abuse of women under the Borgia rule. The Rosa functions as more than a place to hire distractions. It's an intelligence center, and the courtesans understand what powerful men say when they believe no one important is listening. And this gives them access to information that soldiers can't obtain. Their work reinforces a recurring Assassin's Creed idea. Power often ignores the people that it considers invisible. Those people, therefore, become uniquely capable of undermining it. The thief missions emphasize movement and speed. They test our parkour skills, navigation, and our escape tactics. The thieves operate in the spaces authority cannot fully control, like rooftops and alleyways and crowds. Their presence strengthens the idea that Rome has another map beneath the official one, a map of shortcuts, secrets, and informational networks. Ezio's mastery of the city depends on learning the hidden geography. The mercenaries represent a direct resistance. Their mission frequently emphasizes combat, military targets, and Borgia forces. Bartolomeo brings a humor and energy, but he also embodies limitation. Force can win battles, but it cannot liberate Rome on its own. Brotherhood repeatedly combines the three factions because no single method is sufficient. Information without action is powerless. Force without intelligence is just reckless, and movement without purpose is escape. A significant subplot concerns La Volpe's suspicion that Machiavelli is betraying the assassins. This storyline tests Ezio's leadership. He's forced to navigate distrust in his own network. Evidence seems to implicate Machiavelli, so La Volpe demands action. The situation could easily fracture the Brotherhood, but Ezio refuses to act on just suspicion. The Ezio back in the day, who killed Umberto Alberti, was driven by rage and apparent certainty. He has learned the lesson Altier learned before him. Information needs to be examined, and authority needs to be questioned. Certainty can be dangerous. The true traitor is eventually exposed, and Machiavelli is cleared. But the episode strengthens Ezio's claim to leadership, because he prevents fear from breaking the group. A lesser leader might have protected unity with punishment, but Ezio protects it with truth. Brotherhood significantly changes combat with the new execution streak system. In Assassin's Creed 2, group battles often became slow defensive encounters. You waited for an attack, you countered, and you returned to waiting. Brotherhood rewards aggression. After performing a successful kill, Ezio can chain executions into nearby enemies. A skilled player can move through an entire group without even breaking any momentum, and this makes you feel like an absolute beast, and it shows how dangerous Ezio is in his prime. The result of all of this is faster, more cinematic, and more empowering. Combat now reflects Ezio's experience. He's no longer a young lad learning to survive. He's one of the most dangerous men alive. And this system also changes enemy encounters psychologically. Groups that once appeared threatening just become opportunities for flow. The player searches for the weakest opening, secures one kill, and then turns the battle into a sequence of glorious death. And this makes combat dramatically more enjoyable, though it can reduce the difficulty. Ezio can seem almost unstoppable at times, but the power fantasy fits in nicely with his status, because my boy has aura. It moves the franchise further away from the original game's idea that combat is punishment for failed stealth. In Brotherhood, combat is a delicious spectacle. Different enemy types need different responses. Agile enemies evade slow attacks. Brutes absorb damage. Spearmen control some distance. The guards combine strong armor with aggressive behavior. And the kick becomes massively important. It breaks defensive stances and creates openings. Disarms allow Ezio to turn enemy weapons against them. Heavy weapons can produce brutal and satisfying executions. The crossbow adds a quiet, ranged option, which is more practical than the pistol from the last game. Poison remains useful for indirect assassinations, and smoke bombs can reset encounters or create devastating openings for an attack or an opportunity to escape. The player's arsenal is broad enough to support multiple play styles, but a balance increasingly favours domination. Brotherhood wants the player to feel like a master assassin in his prime, and with that, it succeeds without compromise. The crossbow had appeared in some promotional imagery for the original game, but it was removed before its release. Brotherhood finally introduces it as a usable and effective weapon. It provides silent, ranged kills with a long reach, reliable accuracy, and greater tactical flexibility than the throwing knives. Combined with poison as smoke bombs and the signals, the crossbow turns Ezio into a monster and a versatile hunter. And this creates one of Brotherhood's great pleasures: layering tools. A recruit could kill one guard, a poison dart creates some chaos among another group, courtesans distract a patrol, Ezio crosses over a rooftop unseen, and the target dies before the environment fully understands what's even happened. You can still enter open combat, but Brotherhood increasingly supports orchestration. The Master Assassin does not just react, he arranges the battlefield like a chessboard. Brotherhood also introduces full synchronization objectives. Each memory includes an optional condition intended to reflect how Ezio supposedly completed the event in the true memory. These could be avoiding detection, taking no damage, kill a target using only a particular method, complete the mission within a certain time limit, use recruits, don't swim, don't kill unnecessary guards. Mechanically, these conditions increase replay value. They add a nice little challenge. They encourage players to approach missions in very specific ways. Narratively, they reinforce the concept of the animus. The player is not just completing an objective, they're attempting to match the genetic memory. Full synchronization did become one of the series' most controversial systems. Some conditions encourage mastery, others feel arbitrary. A mission could allow several creative solutions, only to label one of them as historically correct. And this creates tension between the freedom and the fidelity, and can pull you out of the immersion. A franchise built around player choice begins grading that choice. At its best, full synchronization transforms missions into elegant little challenges, but at its worst, it restricts experimentation and punishes players for engaging with the sandbox. The system would remain part of the series for several years, and it became both a completionist's obsession and a source of frustration. I personally chose mostly to ignore these, as I was enjoying the experience of making Ezio my own. There were occasions when the goals did line up with what I wanted to achieve, so I achieved full synchronization naturally in those moments. Our boy Leonardo da Vinci returns, but this time his roles changed. In Assassin's Creed 2, his invention symbolized curiosity and friendship. In Brotherhood, his genius has been weaponized by the Borgia. Leonardo is faced to design machines of war now, and Ezio helps him locate the plans, destroy the inventions, and eliminate the engineers that are producing them. These missions form one of Brotherhood's larger optional storylines. Each machine creates a dramatic set piece. The naval cannon turns a boat into a moving weapons platform. The bomber revisits the flight from the previous game with offensive capability, and the tank offers a heavy armoured combat sequence. The machine gun carriage becomes a high-speed chase, and these missions deliberately break from standard city gameplay. They add variety and spectacle, and a sense of technological danger. But their narrative significance is equally important. Knowledge is not natural once power claims it. Leonardo creates because he's curious, and the Borgia corrupt his curiosity, transforming it into domination. Ezio's task is not to destroy Leonardo's mind. It's to prevent that mind from becoming industrialized violence. Leonardo and Ezio's friendship remains one of the most human relationships in the entire trilogy, possibly even the whole franchise. By Brotherhood, they've known each other for decades at this point. Their interactions carry shared history. There's trust and affection. Ezio doesn't treat Leonardo as an equipment vendor, and Leonardo is one of the few people connected to the young man that Ezio used to be. Before he had his title, before the recruits, and before the responsibility of restoring Rome. Their conversations remind us that Ezio's life contains more than just war, death, and conflict. The friendship also reveals his capacity for loyalty outside of the Brotherhood. He values Leonardo, not because Leonardo follows the Creed, but because he's his oldest friend. The layers of Romulus function as Brotherhood's version of the Assassin's Tombs. These hidden environments beneath Rome combine parkour sections, combat, and environmental puzzles. They're connected to the followers of Romulus, a cult whose members dress as wolves and manipulate ancient Roman mythology. Their presence adds a kind of strange, almost supernatural layer to the city and the game. Rome's already built on ruins, and the layers go deeper. Below the Borgia occupation lies medieval superstition, and below that lies imperial history, and below that lies myth. The city becomes archaeological. Every layer contains another version of power. The followers use the legend of Rome's founding to frighten and control. The Borgias exploit them as tools, and once again belief becomes a weapon. Completing the layers rewards keys that are used to unlock the armour and dagger of Brutus. Like the armour of Altair in the previous game, the reward connects exploration with assassin history. This is drastically different. Altair's armour represented disciplined legacy. Brutus, his political assassinations, the ancient killing of a tyrant, Rome's history of violence folded into Ezio's present. Brotherhood continues the franchise's commitment to collectibles, but the design is more focused than on the second game. The enormous feather hunt is reduced this time, but still holds the same sentiment. Borgia flags become the primary collectible, and they're scattered across Rome and optional locations, and this feels like a pointless collectible, but it is what it is. Treasure chests provide money and trade items. Subject 16's glyph-like anomalies return again, through clusters hidden in the environment. The game also includes shop quests requiring rare trade items. These unlock specialized equipment and upgrades. Collectibles now connect to several progression systems: economy, equipment, lore, completion. The player is not just collecting for one reason, and yet the map still became crowded. Brotherhood represents the moment when the bloated Ubisoft open-world formula started to solidify. There's towers, districts, icons, collectibles, renovations, side missions, completion percentages. The design offers abundant activity, but it also begins revealing the danger of that abundance. You can draw a line straight from this to the senseless amount of pointless shite in Valhalla. When everything becomes an icon, exploration risks becoming administration. One of the main complaints I had about the last few games is that they started to feel like a very repetitive, boring job. Brotherhood largely avoids exhaustion because Rome is dense and the rewards are satisfying. But the blueprint for the future excess and bloat is definitely visible here. We've also got shop quests that add to the economy. Some merchants request collections of trade items. like rare materials, fabrics, dyes. Objects can be recovered from treasure chests or enemies, and completing these requests requires unique items. The system encourages looting and exploration beyond just simple currency. Money on its own can't buy everything. Some equipment requires specific resources, and this adds some texture to the economy. But it lacks the complexity of later crafting systems. And it also reflects Brotherhood's bigger design philosophy. Almost every activity in the game feeds directly into another. A treasure chest could provide a trade item, and that item completes a shop quest. The quest unlocks more equipment. Better equipment expands assassin control, and the systems continue to form a chain. Some versions of Brotherhood include missions involving Nicholas Copernicus. These missions focus on scientific knowledge, censorship, and the danger faced by people challenging an accepted truth. Copernicus becomes a natural fit for the Assassin's Creed philosophy. The Brotherhood values questioning, and the Templars fear ideas that weaken the established control. Scientific inquiry then becomes political resistance. The missions are not central to the main narrative, but they reinforce the setting's intellectual conflict. Rome is the seat of religious authority, and it is also a place where knowledge can threaten power. Brotherhood repeatedly returns to the idea that information is never just academic. The Christina storyline is one of Brotherhood's most emotionally important side stories. It's unlocked throughout the game, and these sequences revisit Ezio's relationship with Christina Vespucci. Assassin's Creed 2 introduces Christina briefly as a youthful romance. Brotherhood reveals that this relationship was something a little more significant. The memories move through different periods of Ezio's life. Before the execution of his family, during his years of revenge, after time and responsibility have pulled him away, Christina represents the life that Ezio might have lived. A life that's not consumed by assassins, Templars, and pieces of Eden. The relationship is tender, but impossible. Ezio cares for her, but he repeatedly leaves. Sometimes because of danger, sometimes duty, sometimes because he just can't separate himself from the path that he's chosen. The tragedy here is not that Ezio never loved Christina, it's that love was not enough to make him whole again. These memories deepen the cost of his transformation. Becoming a legendary assassin requires sacrifice. Not only blood, but time, intimacy, and love. And the possibility of a different, happier future. Christina's story ensures that Ezio's charisma never fully buries the loneliness beneath. To dismantle Cesare's control, Ezio has to target the pillars that are supporting it. So that's his money, his military strength, and his political influence. Also, personal loyalty. The Borgia Empire is not sustained by just this one little weasel. It's a network. And this gives Brotherhood's main narrative a structure similar to the liberation of Rome. Ezio does not rush directly towards the leader. He removes the systems that make that leadership possible. The banker funds war. Military commanders enforce the control. Political allies protest legitimacy. Family members secure influence. Destroy the support structure, and Cesare becomes vulnerable. And this is a strategic lesson Ezio failed to understand at the end of the last game. Sparing Rodrigo was not necessarily a mistake, but believing the conflict ended with him was. Brotherhood is a campaign of systematic dismantling. The banker sequence attacks the financial foundation of the Borgia power. The mission takes place amid wealth, indulgence, and lots of juicy corruption. This isn't a Diddy party though. Our target does not command armies personally either. But he makes armies possible. And this is an important expansion of the Templar threat. Control is expensive, soldiers require payment, and weapons require manufacturing. Loyalty often requires a price. The banker transforms suffering into profit and profit into political force. Ezio's assassination, therefore, strikes at that infrastructure. The mission also uses social stealth effectively, crowds, performances. The assassins challenge the financial power from inside its own celebration. The Baron represents the Borgia's military alliances. He commands French forces and threatens Bartolommeo's mercenaries. The storyline includes infiltration, disguise, and some of that tasty open combat. Ezio works with Bartolomeo to undermine the French presence. Surprisingly, they don't surrender or run away. The arc highlights the Borgia's dependence on external strength. For all his claims of destiny, he still needs armies, monies, political partnerships, and foreign soldiers. His power's not natural, it's constructed, and once those supports are removed, the myth of invincibility begins to collapse. Micheletto is the executioner and loyal enforcer. His storyline leads Ezio into the Colosseum during a religious performance. The setting is symbolically deep: ancient Roman spectacle, Christian theatre, political assassination. It's public faith manipulated by private power. Ezio disguises himself and moves through the performances while preventing the murder of an ally. The mission turns theatre into stealth, costumes become camouflage, and choreography becomes infiltration. The sequence captures one of Assassin's Creed's favourite ideas: public history is performance. The real conflict happens behind the curtain. The relationship between Cesare and Rodrigo becomes increasingly hostile. Rodrigo understands that his son's ambition has become more uncontrollable. Cesare believes his father is a weak has-been. He's old and afraid. The generational conflict mirrors a wider difference between their forms of Templar power. Rodrigo built influence gradually over time with patience and cunning. Cesare is a spoilt little twat who wants immediate conquest. Rodrigo uses patience, Cesare uses force. Rodrigo recognizes his limits, Cesare considers limits an insult. Eventually, Rodrigo attempts to stop his son. The Borgia system begins devouring itself from the inside, and this is a recurring pattern in Assassin's Creed. Organizations built on control struggle to contain the ambitions of their own leaders. When power is the highest value, loyalty remains conditional. Family becomes competition, institutions become weapons, even love becomes a form of ownership. Cesare's murder of Rodrigo is the ultimate expression of his character. He doesn't just reject his father's authority, he consumes it. The poisoned apple carries an obvious symbolic weight. A father attempting to stop the monster that he's helped create, and a son turning the instrument of betrayal back onto him. A family built on entitlement is collapsing through the same hunger that built and fed it for years. Rodrigo's death doesn't redeem him though. It reveals that he finally understood the danger of his son's ambition, but it was too late. Cesare has moved beyond Templar strategy. He no longer needs the ideology. He believes that he's beyond it. Ezio eventually recovers the Apple of Eden for the final portion of the campaign. The artifact becomes a usable weapon, and this is a major mechanical and thematic shift. The apple can overwhelm groups of enemies. It manipulates minds and forces enemies to turn against each other. But using it drains Ezio's health. Power carries a cost. The mechanic is simple, but symbolically, it's very effective. The apple offers extraordinary control, but every use consumes the person wielding it. This reflects the artifact's role throughout the entire franchise so far. The danger is not only what it does to others, it's what possessing it does to the user. Ezio uses the apple because he needs to, but unlike Big Daddy Al-Mualim or Cesare, he doesn't mistake necessity for entitlement. He understands that such power cannot become ordinary. With Cesare's supporters removed and the apple recovered, Borgia control starts to collapse. Rome does not change through one assassination. It changes because the entire network has been dismantled. Captains are dead, towers have been destroyed, finances disrupted, and alliances broken. The citizens are now emboldened. Assassins have been recruited, and the businesses have been restored. The open world progression and main story finally converge. Rome, near the end of Brotherhood, is not the Rome from the beginning. We've changed it. This transformation is one of the game's greatest accomplishments. Many open worlds reset around the player. Brotherhood allows Rome to remember. Cesare is ultimately arrested by the new pope, and this is a fitting humiliation, like shitting yourself on a night out with the missus and her mates. I will keep denying it. The man who imagined himself above all institutions is captured by institutional change now. And without his father, without money or military support, without the aura of invincibility, he's a small man now. But he refuses to accept defeat. He insists that no one can kill him and that destiny protects him. Chains can't hold him. His belief in his own aura survives the destruction of everything else around him. And because of that, Ezio knows the conflict isn't finished. The final confrontation takes place years later during the siege of Vienna. The setting removes Ezio and Cesare from Rome. There's no political theatre here. There's no family palace and no Borgia court. Only a big old dirty war. Cesare has escaped prison, like your dad escaping his parental responsibilities, and he's returned to military command. He still believes destiny can't be denied. Ezio enters the battlefield. He's a lot older and more mature than the vengeful youth from AC2. It's not revenge in the old sense. It's the end of a threat that refuses to remain defeated. He's finally got a chance to stamp out this nasty little cockroach. Their confrontation brings their opposing philosophies into focus. Cesare believes his power proves his destiny. Ezio believes actions create consequence. Cesare insists no one is hard enough to kill him. Ezio answers by humbling the little dickhead, and this entire section of the game is epic, and it feels incredibly cinematic. He doesn't just execute Cesare with his hidden blade, he punts the massive bell end right off the battlements, and Cesare is left to gravity. This moment is theatrical and deliciously excessive, and it provides an extraordinary, satisfying end. The man who believed himself to be better than humanity itself is destroyed by Newton's law of universal gravitation. He drops like a sack of shite and he's done. Ezio's victory over Cesare differs from his victory over Big Rodrigo. Rodrigo was the final target of a revenge journey. Cesare is the final obstacle in a leadership journey. Ezio doesn't defeat him alone in the broader sense. Rome was liberated by networks, recruits, citizens, factions, allies, information and investment. This duel is individual. The victory is collective, and that is Brotherhood's central message. Yeah, one big Chad can kill a tyrant, but it takes a Brotherhood to truly dismantle tyranny. Back in the modern day, Desmond and the squad establish a little base under the ruins of Ezio's old villa. The location creates a powerful connection between the timelines. Players move through the same spaces in two eras. The thriving town of Ezio's memories has become a quiet modern settlement. The villa stands as a ruin. Tunnels remain hidden beneath ordinary streets. History has faded into the architecture. The modern sections now allow Desmond to leave the Animus and explore. He can speak with Lucy, Sean and Rebecca. He can read emails, examine the base, move through the town using the abilities gained through the bleeding effect, and this all gives the modern assassins more personality. They feel less like operators standing around a machine and more like a fragile group living together under pressure. Desmond's physical development also continues. The bleeding effect has given him Ezio's movement, combat instincts. He can now climb, leap, navigate architecture, use eagle vision, and the idea is really intriguing. If I got a bleeding effect from an ancestor, I'd probably end up an overweight, depressed narcoleptic. So pretty much the same. Anyway, Desmond's not just learning facts about history, he's inheriting capabilities. The distinction between ancestor and descendant now becomes increasingly unstable. Memories now shape the behaviours, skills transfer, personalities echo. The Animus is creating an assassin through accelerated experience, but it also carries risks. Subject 16 demonstrated what happened when too many lives bleed into one identity. Desmond's growth, therefore, contains an undercurrent of danger. The stronger he becomes, the less clear those boundaries become. Subject 16's mystery continues through hidden clusters. Like the glyphs in AC2, these anomalies require the player to identify digital disturbances in the historical environment. Solving them reveals puzzles involving images, symbols, codes, and hidden connections. The content deepens the conspiracy: politics, economics, surveillance, power, control. History appears not just as isolated events, but as systems influenced by Templar thinking. The clusters eventually reveal more of Subject 16. His name's Clay. He's a man whose mind is completely smashed apart by the Animus. His presence inside the machine raises some unsettling questions. Can a consciousness survive digitally? What exactly does the Animus preserve? Is it memories or personality? A soul translated into code? Brotherhood does not really fully answer these questions. It just allows the mysteries to grow. Now it's time for climax, and we all love a good climax. So Desmond takes the squad beneath the Colosseum. They follow the clues toward a hidden temple constructed by the first civilization. Like the vault under the Vatican, the Temple of Juno combines ancient symbolism with impossible technology. The architecture appears to be religious because humanity later interpreted the Isu as gods. But beneath the myth lies machinery. The team searches for the Apple of Eden hidden by Ezio centuries earlier. The memory sequences and modern exploration converge. Ezio's actions guide Desmond directly. History is now a map. The past has been arranging the present. Juno is different to Minerva. Minerva appeared urgent but protective. She warned Desmond of a catastrophe. Juno is colder. She's slightly sinister. Her words suggest a resentment towards humanity. She doesn't view Desmond just as a saviour, she views him as a tool. This changes the tone of the first civilization mystery. The Isu are not all unified. They do not all share the same goals, and they're not benevolent gods guiding humanity. They have rivalries, motives, prejudice, and plans. The ancient conflict becomes a lot more complicated. Humanity is not just uncovering lost knowledge now, it's stepping into a struggle that began before human history. Brotherhood ends with one of the franchise's most shocking moments. Desmond finally reaches the apple, but Juno takes control of him. She uses him like a puppet. The hidden blade extends, and she turns Desmond into a roadman, and he stabs Lucy. The act is horrifying because it violates the central principle of assassin philosophy: free will. Desmond has spent 3 games now learning from people who fight against control, but now his own body has been controlled by an ancient power. He becomes a tool for an ancient god. The scene mirrors the danger of the pieces of Eden in the most personal way possible. Control is not abstract, it's losing the ownership of your own actions. Desmond collapses with Lucy. Unknown voices prepare to place him back in the Animus, and the screen fades to black. Lucy's death becomes one of the most debated moments in the entire franchise. At the time, players had a very limited explanation. She had been Desmond's guide, his connection to the assassins, potentially his closest emotional relationship, and it seemed like something more could be brewing. Her sudden death felt brutal and pretty confusing. Later material would add further context regarding her loyalties and the reason that Juno considered her a threat. But within Brotherhood itself, the emphasis remains on shock and loss of control. This creates both power and frustration. The moment is unforgettable, but much of its meaning depends on information delivered somewhere else or later. It reflects a broader challenge facing Assassin's Creed's expanding mythology. Mystery can create fascination. Too much withheld context can create distance. But Brotherhood ends at the edge of that tension. It reflects a broader challenge facing Assassin's Creed's expanding mythology. Mystery can create fascination. Too much withheld context can create some distance. And Brotherhood ends by edging that tension. For the first time, Brotherhood introduced competitive multiplayer to the franchise. Now, this could easily have felt like an unnecessary addition. Assassin's Creed was built around single-player exploration and narrative, but the multiplayer intelligently adapts social stealth into a competitive structure. Every player is both a hunter and a target. You receive a contract, someone else receives you, and the objective is not just to kill quickly, but to kill well. You approach unnoticed, blend with crowds, observe behaviours, identify the human player among the identical non-player characters. Strike at the right moment. A rushed kill may succeed, but you will earn fewer points. A patient assassin earns bigger rewards, and this scoring system encourages assassin-like behaviour rather than ordinary deathmatch aggression. The multiplayer's brilliance lies in behavioural reading. Artificial characters move predictably. Human players struggle to imitate them. A sudden turn, an unnatural pause, a climb, a sprint, a quick moment of panic. These small behaviours reveal the identity, and the game becomes psychological. Can you appear ordinary while searching for your target? Can you identify danger without revealing fear? Can you escape without becoming obvious? The multiplayer takes the single-player concept of hiding in plain sight and makes it genuinely social. Not simulated social stealth, actual deception between people. The multiplayer is also framed within the game's fiction. The players represent Abstergo agents training through animist simulations. And this continues the franchise's habit of explaining game systems with narrative. Matches become Templar exercises, abilities become simulation tools, progression becomes advancement within Abstergo. The multiplayer therefore expands the world without interrupting the main campaign. It shows the Templars learning from the same historical methods as the Assassins. The world is evolving, both sides are using memory as training. Brotherhood's development challenge was pretty substantial. Ubisoft had to create a full sequel quickly, while maintaining the momentum generated by Assassin's Creed 2. The decision to retain Ezio and the Renaissance setting reduced some risk. Characters, technology, and core systems already existed, but the team still needed to justify a new game. Rome was the answer. Rather than spreading content across several cities like they'd done before, Ubisoft constructed one enormous environment with more depth. The city could be occupied, liberated, renovated, and traversed on foot and horseback. It was filled with factions, missions, and collectibles. The recruit system became the sequel's defining new fantasy. Multiplayer expanded the brand into an entirely different space. The result feels more evolutionary than revolutionary, but the evolution is extremely confident. Brotherhood understands exactly what players enjoyed about Assassin's Creed 2. They refined what was there, smoothed out those rougher edges, polished everything up, and then gave those systems more purpose. Rome Scale encouraged Ubisoft to use horses directly in urban traversal. Unlike Assassin's Creed 2, where the horses were largely limited to the countryside regions, Brotherhood allows Ezio to ride through much of Rome. You can summon an horse, move quickly between different districts, leap from horseback, perform assassinations while you're mounted. The system acknowledges the practical issue. Rome is massive without feeling overwhelming. Rooftop travel would become exhausting across the city's more open spaces, and horses bridge dense urban areas and countryside-like outskirts. And they also make the city feel less uniform. Central Rome supports the classic rooftop parkour, Outer districts create longer routes and larger landscapes. Brotherhood also introduces a tunnel network as a fast travel system. Now these entrances must be renovated before you can use them. Once restored, they allow rapid movement between key points. The mechanic fits naturally into the economy. Liberating and investing in Rome improves your own convenience. The city becomes easier to navigate because Ezio has changed it. This is a small connection between world progression and player experience. Rome does not just generate more money as it improves, it becomes more usable. Brotherhood systems create a very interesting tension in player identity. On one hand, the game offers more tools than it ever did before: recruits, crossbows, poison, smoke, all of that. On the other hand, full synchronization often asks players to ignore many of those options. Now this contradiction reflects a franchise searching for balance. Should Assassin's Creed be a sandbox? Should it be a historical reenactment, a stealth game, an action spectacle, or for the clinically insane, a completionist challenge? Now Brotherhood has a crack at being all of them at once. And most of the time, these systems do coexist. Occasionally, yeah, they do collide. But even that collision reveals the series' ambition. Assassin's Creed no longer wants to provide one fantasy. It wants to provide an entire ecosystem of fantasies within the same historical simulation. Brotherhood explores several major themes: leadership, community, control, legacy, and limits of individual power. The first theme is leadership. Ezio begins the game as a now accomplished and feared assassin, but skill does not automatically make him a leader. Leadership requires trust, delegation, judgment, patience, and the willingness to accept responsibility for others. The recruit system expresses this mechanically. Claudia's induction expresses it emotionally. The conflict with Machiavelli expresses it politically, and the liberation of Rome expresses it structurally. The second theme is community. The title Brotherhood is not decorative. Ezio succeeds because he builds relationships. He builds a brotherhood. Citizens, courtesans, thieves, mercenaries, recruits, all family, friends. Rome is liberated by a collective action from people with shared ideals and goals. And the third theme of the game, control. Cesare seeks control through military domination. The Borgias control Rome through fear and institutions. The apple controls minds. Juno controls Desmond's body. The game repeatedly presents control like Amber Heard. It's seductive, effective, but fundamentally dehumanizing. The fourth theme is legacy. Ezio inherits Mario's mansion. Recruits inherit the Creed. Desmond inherits Ezio's abilities. Rome inherits the consequences of both Borgia rule and assassin liberation. Every generation receives an unfinished struggle. The final theme is the limit of the individual. Ezio. He's more powerful than he's ever been before, but he cannot liberate Rome through his own strength. Cesare believes one beast of a man can bend history to his will. Ezio learns the opposite. History changes when people unite and act together. Ezio and Cesare are both charismatic leaders. Both of them come from powerful families. Both command armed followers. Both believe they can shape history. But the way they understand leadership is completely different. Cesare commands with entitlement. Ezio leads with example. Cesare treats followers as extensions of himself. Ezio allows recruits to become assassins on their own when they're ready. Cesare consumes Rome. Ezio restores it. Cesare's strength depends on keeping others weak. Ezio's strength grows when others become more capable. This contrast is Brotherhood's clearest ideological statement. The assassin ideal is not simply freedom from rulers, but empowerment. The ability of ordinary people to take history and shape it into what they want. Brotherhood also contains a very interesting contradiction. Ezio fights against control. However, He commands a network of trained killers. He selects contracts, directs units, uses wealth to reshape districts. He even uses the apple. The game largely frames these actions as positive, because Ezio's intentions are noble, and he's the player character. But the tension is still there. What separates leadership from control? Consent, accountability, purpose, and the willingness to let others grow beyond dependence. The recruit ceremonies suggest an answer. Ezio does not groom minions, he creates assassins. At the highest rank, they're not just tools anymore. They become members of the Order, brothers, but the apple complicates that distinction. Even Ezio uses force control when the situation becomes desperate. Brotherhood doesn't fully interrogate the hypocrisy, but it leaves the question visible, and it's pretty hard to ignore. Can freedom be defined using instruments of domination? Certain world leaders in real life would definitely say yes. The British government would 100% agree. It's honestly becoming a dystopian surveillance state nightmare here at the moment. Rome is the perfect setting for Brotherhood because it embodies layers of power. The Roman Republic, the Empire, the Church, Renaissance, modern history. Every age has made a claim on this city. Every ruler has presented authority as permanent. But ruins are everywhere. Rome constantly reminds the player that power fades. The Borgia believe the city belongs to them. Ancient columns rise above their banners. Empires greater than theirs have already fallen. Ezio's liberation campaign takes place inside a warning. No authority is eternal. Occupation is not final. And history always outlives the people who claim to own it. Brotherhood's optional content is pretty strong, because much of it expands a different part of Ezio's life. The Christina memories reveal an emotional sacrifice. The layers of Romulus explore myth and forgotten history. Leonardo's machines examine knowledge that's been turned into warfare. The faction missions deepen Rome's resistance networks. Recruit contracts expand the Brotherhood all the way across Europe. Subject 16's clusters deepen the modern conspiracy. Shop quests support equipment progression. Templar agent missions target smaller figures, maintaining Borgia control. Not every activity is equally as substantial, but together, they all create density. Rome doesn't just feel like a massive map, filled with meaningless icons, like the last few games. It feels like multiple wars are all happening at once. Political war, financial, cultural, a personal war, a war over memory, and a war over who controls the future. Templar agent missions focus on individuals supporting the Borgia system beneath the primary antagonists. These targets don't command armies or appear in any major cinematics, but they represent an ordinary infrastructure of oppression. Informants, officials, enforcers, collaborators, all of them. Their presence reinforces the game's systemic understanding of power. A regime is not maintained by just one family. It requires a participation. People who benefit, people who obey, people who will look the other way. The missions broaden the meaning of Ezio's campaign. He's not just eliminating famous villains, he's removing the machinery that allows those villains to function in the first place. The recruit contracts suggest that the Assassin-Templar conflict extends beyond Rome. Missions appear across Europe and the Mediterranean. Spain, France, England, other regions that are all shaped by the same political struggles. We don't visit these locations directly, but the map expands the scale of Brotherhood and the world. Rome is one front. Ezio's recruits become part of a massive network. This makes the Order feel global before later games fully explore its internal branches. It also reinforces Ezio's new role. He's no longer chasing a conspiracy across Italy. He's directing a movement around the world. Brotherhood's narrative is structurally pretty different from AC2. The last game follows a long personal transformation across decades. Brotherhood covers a more concentrated political campaign. Its emotional centre is not as raw as the execution of Ezio's family. Its villain is more theatrical and a throbbing bellend. Its plot moves directly. and this can make Brotherhood feel less like a grand life story and more like a season of a historical TV series. Ezio has already become himself. The drama now comes from what he does with that identity. The question isn't now, who will Ezio become? It's what can Ezio build? I don't think any other of the Assassin's Creed games create momentum as effectively as Brotherhood. A typical play session usually begins with me finding a viewpoint, getting stuck in a Borgia captain hunt, continuing with a tower burning, unlocking some shop renovations, generating some cash by going AFK while I put the kettle on, and then I'd find a recruitment opportunity, send some recruits on contracts, complete a little faction mission, get stuck in with a Romulus lair, and then return back to the main story, and repeat until I realised it was 3 AM. The systems are all constantly feeding into one another, and this gives Brotherhood an extremely satisfying loop. The progress is everywhere. The city is always responding, and the player always has another meaningful objective nearby to get balls deep in. Ezio gradually becomes an extremely powerful beast. The execution streaks destroy groups without having to break a sweat. Now this could be seen as a negative, but I enjoy the power fantasy. Recruits erase difficult targets for us. The arrow storm can clear an entire street. The crossbow absolutely makes a mockery of rooftop guards. Smoke bombs essentially eliminate any danger. Brotherhood is less interested in making the player feel failure than it is in letting you enjoy the mastery. It's a peak of the classic assassin power fantasy. I'd have taken a remake of this over Black Flag any day, but that would require a remake of the entire trilogy. So I'm pretty sure, looking back, this is probably my favourite game in the whole franchise. The game's visual identity is built around contrast. The Borgias dominate Rome through red. They've got banners, red uniforms, architecture and symbols. The assassins have white robes, hidden movement and social stealth. Rome combines warm stone, green countryside, ancient marble and political decay, and the soundtrack also reflects Ezio's maturity. Assassin's Creed 2 often sounded romantic and exploratory. Brotherhood sounds heavier, more ceremonial and cinematic. The music carries responsibility. Ezio is no longer discovering the world. He's carrying its weight on his robed shoulders. Back in the day, Brotherhood was praised for refining the systems of the last game without losing any of that momentum. The recruit mechanic became a favourite, and other games have done similar things. Rome offered a dense and responsive open world. Combat felt slick, satisfying, and a lot faster. The multiplayer surprised everybody by translating the social stealth into competitive play. Some criticism focused on how similar the game was to Assassin's Creed 2 and the short development cycle, the less emotionally powerful central narrative, the increasingly dominant map icon structure that allowed the rot of Ubisoft's focus on bloat to grow over the years. Yet Ubisoft proved that the franchise could support annual releases without immediately collapsing in quality. That success shaped Ubisoft's strategy for years, until it began to grow stale and they needed a reset. But at the time, this game proved Assassin's Creed was no longer just an occasional major release. It was becoming a yearly institution. It was something to get excited for, and that decision would generate some solid commercial momentum. It would also create long-term creative pressure. Brotherhood represents the moment when the franchise's success became both a strength and a future danger. Brotherhood matters because it expands the meaning of being an assassin. The first game emphasised discipline. Assassin's Creed 2 focused on growth, and Brotherhood was about responsibility. Ezio begins as a Renaissance roadman, a bloke in an hoodie with an hidden blade. He ends this game as the centre of a global movement. The city changes because people believe in him. They love him and they join him. The Order grows because he trusts others. The Borgia fall because they get taken from every direction, like Bonnie Blue. And Desmond's story darkens because the same ancient civilization manipulating history can still seize control of the present. Brotherhood strengthens the franchise's central contradiction. Humans want freedom, but power always offers easy answers. One ruler, one army, one artifact, one will. The Assassins reject that simplicity. Their alternative is a lot slower, it's messier, and more fragile. People choosing to work together, and this is the meaning of the title. A brotherhood is not perfect unity. It's a shared purpose without losing our individuality. At the end of Brotherhood, Ezio is in his prime. He's at the height of his power, he's liberated Rome, he's destroyed the Borgia regime, he's defeated Cesare, rebuilt the Italian Brotherhood, trained a new generation to continue the fight, earned the respect of Machiavelli, inducted Claudia, protected his day one Leonardo, and again, recovered the apple. He has become everything the young man from Florence would never have imagined, but this victory has not brought certainty. The first civilization is still mysterious. The apple remains dangerous. The conflict continues far beyond Italy. And somewhere inside the Animus, Desmond lays, unconscious, after killing the woman who guided him and saved him. Ezio has mastered the role of the assassin, but mastery doesn't provide final answers, it creates new questions. What do we have left after revenge? What does a leader look like after victory? What happens when a man has spent decades serving a cause that he doesn't fully understand? The next game would send Ezio east, away from Florence, away from Rome, away from the Borgia family, towards the beginning of the Brotherhood itself, to Constantinople, Masyaf, and back to the OG Altair, and toward the final revelation of what his life had always been leading up to.